Hearing a baby cry, the black maid rushed upstairs. What she saw inside left her horrified. The mansion seemed too still, its silence pressing against the walls like an unspoken warning. Amelia had grown used to quiet in this house, but she also knew the difference between peace and neglect. Tonight, the quiet was sharp, the kind that made her ears strain for something she wished she wouldn't hear. And then it came, a cry. Not the soft cry of a baby wanting to be held, not the whimper of a child needing milk. This was different, frantic, sharp, and painful. It sliced through the silence with such urgency that Amelia dropped the silver cloth from her hand. She hurried up the staircase, her black shoes tapping against the polished steps. Her starched black uniform and white apron flared slightly as she pushed herself faster. She already knew something was wrong. She always knew. The baby, little Daniel, was not hers, but she felt it in her bones when he hurt. His real mother had died giving him life, and the father, a wealthy businessman, had remarried quickly. The new wife, Evelyn, played the part of the doting stepmother whenever her husband was home. But Amelia, who lived in the shadows of this house, saw the truth. She saw the way Evelyn turned cold the second her husband's footsteps faded out the door. She heard the mocking comments Evelyn whispered whenever Amelia tried to comfort the boy. "You spoil him with your arms, Amelia," she had sneered days earlier. "He cries because you always run to him. Let him learn." But Amelia knew better. The boy cried because he was never properly fed. He cried because he was lonely in that crib, his little stomach aching, his lips dry. Amelia did her best, sneaking in food, holding him when Evelyn wasn't looking. But a maid's love could only do so much when a stepmother's cruelty pulled the other way. Tonight, Evelyn had been alone with him for hours. The husband was away on a 3-day business trip, and Amelia's heart hammered with dread as she reached the bedroom door and pushed it open. The sight inside froze her. The room glowed faintly under the lamp on the nightstand, shadows spilling over the cream walls. Evelyn lay sprawled on the massive bed, blonde hair shining against the silk pillows, her cream robe carelessly loose. Beside her, on the bedspread, rested a silver tray, a half-filled glass of water, and a small box of pills. Amelia's stomach clenched at the sight. Then her eyes darted to the floor. Daniel lay on the pale patterned rug near the bed, his small body, in its light gray romper, convulsed with weak coughs. His face twisted in pain, and then Amelia saw it, the stain spreading across his neckline, dark red, wet, horrifying, blood. No. Her voice broke as she dropped to her knees. She hovered trembling hands above him, afraid to touch, but more afraid not to. His tiny fists flailed, his chest rose in desperate jerks, and every cough rattled his fragile body. Blood flecked his lips now, mixing with his tears. Amelia's mind flashed with horror. Evelyn had had enough. She had grown tired of the baby's endless cries, tired of the burden she never wanted, and with her husband gone, there was no one to witness the truth. The tray, the pills, it all connected in a chilling realization. She fed him, Amelia whispered under her breath, tears burning her eyes. Dear God, she fed him those pills. The baby's body jerked with another cough, his cries breaking into wet, choking sobs. Each sound felt like a blade twisting in Amelia's chest. She gently lifted him, pressing him close, rocking back and forth in frantic rhythm. His blood-stained collar dampened her apron as his tiny hands clawed at her. "Stay with me, little one. Stay with me, she whispered, voice cracking. Behind her, Evelyn finally opened her eyes. Instead of panic, there was only annoyance etched across her face. Her lips parted in a mocking half-smile, and then Evelyn spoke again, her voice slow and careless. "You think you love him, don't you? But he isn't yours. He isn't even mine. He's a burden, Amelia, and soon he won't be anyone's problem." That was it. Something snapped inside Amelia. The terror that had frozen her melted into rage. She rose from her knees, still holding the trembling child in one arm, and with the other she struck Evelyn hard across the face. The sharp crack echoed through the golden bedroom, louder than the baby's cries. Evelyn gasped, clutching her cheek, eyes wide in disbelief. No one had ever dared raise a hand to her before, least of all the maid she mocked daily. Amelia's voice, trembling with fury, cut through the silence. "What have you done to him? He's just a baby," she cried. "A baby who lost his mother the day he was born. And now you tried to finish what death already started. What will happen when his father learns what you've done?" For the first time, Evelyn's confidence faltered. Her face twisted, not in shame, but in panic. She had been so blinded by her bitterness, so consumed with the thought of silencing the child forever, that she had forgotten the one truth she lived by. Everything she had, the mansion, the status, the wealth, depended on her husband, and if he knew... She staggered back against the pillows, breathing hard, her cheek burning from the slap. He won't believe you," she stammered, though the cracks in her voice betrayed her fear. But Amelia had no time for her. She looked down at the baby in her arms, his eyes fluttering weakly, his tiny chest rattling with shallow breaths. Every second counted. Without another word, she ran from the room, her skirt brushing against the cream walls as she bolted down the stairs. The chauffeur, startled by the noise, leapt from his seat in the foyer. Within minutes, Amelia had climbed into the car, clutching the baby tight as she shouted at him to drive. The mansion's gates swung open, and the car tore down the road toward the hospital. The ride felt endless. The boy's coughs grew softer, his tiny hands falling limp against her chest. Amelia whispered to him desperately, her tears soaking his hair. "Stay with me, Daniel. Don't you leave me, please. Not like this." When they reached the hospital, nurses rushed forward, pulling him from her arms, surrounding him with urgent voices and swift hands. Amelia followed, her own chest burning as though the baby's pain lived inside her. She waited in the sterile hallway, her hands clasped so tight her knuckles turned white, and then a voice behind her. "Amelia?" She turned and saw him, Daniel's father, Richard, still in his travel clothes, his face pale with confusion and dread. He had driven back the moment the hospital called. His eyes darted from Amelia to the closed emergency room door. "What happened? Where is my son?" Amelia's lips trembled. She had rehearsed this moment in her head 100 times, always fearing the day she'd have to speak the truth. But now it poured out of her like a flood. "You brought a woman into this house," she whispered, her voice breaking, "but not a mother, not for him. While you were gone, she fed him medicine from her tray. He coughed blood, Richard. He almost—" Her voice cracked, and she clutched her apron with both fists. "If I hadn't come, he would be gone." Richard staggered back, the weight of her words slamming into him. His chest heaved as the truth sank in. He had married Evelyn, believing she would bring warmth back into his home, believing she could be a mother to the child who had lost his real one. But now, standing in the cold hospital hallway, he realized the terrible mistake he had made. Behind them, the emergency doors swung open. A doctor stepped out, removing his gloves. "He's stable," the doctor said gravely. "It will take time, but he's going to survive." Amelia's knees nearly gave out. Tears of relief streamed down her face as she whispered a shaky prayer of thanks. Richard turned to her then, his eyes full of a mixture of grief and gratitude. He reached for her shoulder, his voice breaking. "You saved him, Amelia. You've been more of a mother to him than anyone else. I should have seen it sooner." In that moment, Evelyn's footsteps echoed down the corridor. She appeared pale and frantic, her cheek still red from Amelia's slap. But when Richard's eyes met hers, they weren't filled with love anymore. They were filled with fury. "You tried to take my son's life," he said, his voice low and trembling with rage. "You'll never set foot in that house again, and you'll never come near him." Evelyn's mouth opened, but no words came. For once, she had nothing to say. But before she could turn away, 2 police officers stepped forward, their badges catching the light. Richard's voice cut through the hallway. "She poisoned my child. Take her." Cold steel cuffs snapped around her wrists, her protests echoing uselessly down the corridor as they led her away. Amelia glanced through the small window in the door. The baby lay wrapped in white sheets, his tiny chest rising and falling in steady breaths at last. For the first time, he looked safe. And in that moment, Amelia knew, though she wasn't his mother, she had become the one person who would always fight for him. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button for more emotional, dramatic, and unexpected tales. And let us know in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? We'd love hearing from all of you. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep watching.